Fantastic. Well, Hannah, first of all, thanks so much for joining me here today and being part of our fantastic Women Rock. Really excited to have you here and hear more about your story. So big thanks.
Thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to it with equal parts trepidation.
The perfect balance. That's what you need. Okay, first of all, so yeah, Hannah, just want to get started and just hear a little bit more about your position at the moment at Health and Her.
Sure. So right now at Health and Her, I am the lead and kind of only dev on the app because we've got one lady away on maternity. She's going to be back in a few months. We've got someone new starting. She's starting in, I think, September, beginning of September. Oh wow, it's August. Okay, so she's starting quite soon, and so that's going to be great. I also do bits and bobs on the website, very few bits and bobs on the website, and the back end dev for the app CMS as well.
What's going on then?
Yeah, so I mean, I've only been working there since the beginning of the year, so a lot of that has been kind of catch-up work, getting familiar with the code base as it stands, getting more familiar with what the company does, what all the peripheral stuff around it is, and setting up some kind of infrastructure things and some processes. So yeah, it is. It's been a really, really exciting, interesting challenge. I don't even want to say challenge, really. It kind of is, it's everyone says, oh yes, you should. It's a challenge. It's not. It's just, it's good and it's intensive, but it's good.
Yeah, excellent. No, it sounds like a great environment. And just to take a step back, it'd be great to hear a bit about your story so far. So going back, how did you initially get into the world of tech?
In a slightly roundabout way, it's probably all started when I was 10 years old and hated being taught basic. That was terrible. That put me off for ages. And then I kind of discovered the internet when I was about 15 or 16, and that was a lot more interesting because it was a lot more about community. It was a lot more collaborative. Google was still saying they weren't evil. It was all that kind of stuff, and it was fun and it was interesting. So I did quite a lot of, I guess, kind of hobby stuff. Really, I was building sites on like chats and things like that. Nothing huge, but it was fun. And then I kind of went, okay, this is great, but I'm going to go be a journalist now. Because that was what I was going to be since I was a child, and I went, yeah, this is really good fun, but I'm going to go and do something else. So I did that for about a year, and I was in the internet department of AN publishing company, who I don't think even exists anymore. But we were right next to the development team, so I spent quite a lot of time kind of like peering over their shoulders, being a lot more interested in my work or their work than my work. And yeah, so I kind of went, you know what, I will I will go ahead and do that instead. I'm going to go and investigate the world of PHP. So that's kind of my start.
Fantastic. So it's quite an organic transition then into the world of tech, and like you say, perhaps not what you envisioned yourself doing when you grew up and had dreams of being a journalist, and then yeah, got a little bit sidetracked and did a bit of a career change, and here you are now. It was a really, really nice story. Okay, great. And in terms of then, since you did start in tech, how would you say the perception of women has changed since that day to fast forward to today?
So yeah, I don't remember what I had for breakfast this morning, so this is going to be a bit vague. But I mean, it has. I think a lot of the stereotypes on both sides have kind of fallen away a lot, especially kind of I would say in the last decade or so. I think that there was kind of like women don't go into tech. Well, clearly they do now, and that's great. And obviously there was men in tech can have a certain kind of demeanor, and that's not been my experience. I don't know whether what the environment is like, admittedly in kind of like software engineering, non-web based stuff, but in the web industry. So that's kind of, I think a lot more of the people that I'm working with now are women, and I'm not having the sense that, like, when I've been going for interviews and stuff, that I am a a ticked off checkbox in a diversity list. People are actually hiring me for my skills, which is great because it's always nice to get a job, but you kind of want to get it on your own merits rather than because of your gender.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would guess also there's kind of less of a perception. I think when women did start to be becoming more common in tech, especially on the website, there was the perception that they would be the front end developers, basically the designers, doing the wishy stuff in JavaScript and stuff.
Yeah.
Now, and if you told people, no, actually, I do back end development as well. That's like, one of my areas. Then people be like, oh, that's a bit. That doesn't seem to be the case now. There's kind of like back end, front end, it's all good. Full stack. I would think also probably like more widely in a kind of a popular culture kind of way. There's a lot more, like knowing the names of women who have been historically in tech is less of a pub quiz question. People know now who Ada Lovelace were. They know who Margaret Hamilton is.
Yeah.
Mary Jackson, Hedy Lamarr. I mean, that's all kind of like the STEM things. Grace Hopper. She was a Rear Admiral and a coder, so she kind of knocked it out of the park on that one. But yeah, so I think that's been really great as well. So all positive from my perspective anyway.
Yeah, excellent. And interesting how you say there as well, how there was almost that initial divide between the front end developers and the back end developers, and then again that stereotype that women wouldn't necessarily be gravitating towards those back end roles. But as you rightly say, things are changing now, and those kind of stereotypes are much less prevalent, which is excellent to hear. Okay, great. So another thing I wanted to ask is if you could go back and meet your younger self starting out in tech, what advice would you give to her?
Apparently, lumberjacks make quite good money. No, I don't. So I did think about this actually, and when I was starting out, it's actually quite a different. I think the advice I would give my younger self is actually quite different to what I might say to someone starting out today. But I think there are some universal things. So I would kind of say, it's okay not to know everything, especially now because, there's things move at such a fast pace. It's okay, Stack Overflow has your back and your team should have your back as well. And if they don't, you're in a bad team. That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
Go outside your comfort zone, again, especially now because there are so many things you can learn and use, but, don't necessarily use them. Just kind of know they're out there, investigate a little bit. Don't get just fixed on one path because you will find 500 things passing you by. Tests are not the enemy. They might feel like it, but they're actually really useful. So go ahead and do your tests.
Yeah.
And know what's going on under the hood. Like just as a general life rule, don't use a library you don't know how it works. Be able to write it yourself if you have to. Just don't write it yourself. That's a terrible plan. Use the library, but know how it's. So that's kind of like the really kind of pragmatic stuff. But I think just in general, keep at it. If you have a bad experience, keep at it. Just if you love what you're doing, keep doing it. I guess would be my advice.
Yeah, fantastic. No, that all sounds really positive and a really nice crossover there to professional advice and also just general life advice as well. And that keep at doing the things that you love and keep moving forwards and that bit of a resilience piece in there as well. So, in terms of what you're doing at the moment, then Hannah, I'd love to hear more about potentially any exciting projects that you're working on and how you see these shaping the future of technology or potentially women in tech spaces as well.
Yeah, so that one's a bit of a question. That one in two parts. So I mean, so what I'm working on like right now,
Mm.
a little bit about the app is that it kind of works on a lot of different levels for people. I kind of at its base, it's support for people who buy the supplements. So it will give you reminders. It's got a lot of advice from professionals, for people who are going through menopause, perimenopause, and all of that sort of stuff. It also allows people to log their sort of triggers, symptoms, periods, so anything that you might want to kind of like be able to have an overview of and get some insight on a bit later. But all of that kind of, and this gets to the exciting part. Well, I mean that's exciting too, but the future life is all of that allows for quite a lot of insight into much wider research and understanding, because obviously female health issues as a rule don't often get a lot of mainstream consideration. It's getting better now, but there is still a disparity there. So something like this is able to kind of take that and move that research forward and kind of not fill the gap. The gap is huge, but it really helps. So there's actually been a paper published in the BMJ about how the app has been scientifically proven to help people improve their menopause symptoms, and that's pretty great. I mean, so even when you get sort of the personal stories of people coming along saying, oh, this has really helped, this has been great, this has helped me in my personal journey, the fact that it is something that can also have a much wider scope, can potentially help women in the following years to come, that's just a fantastic thing to know and to work on. And so what we're kind of working on in that sphere right now is just kind of making it a lot more accessible and customizable, because obviously everybody's different. So we're just kind of really focused on trying to make it so that everybody feels supported, no matter where they're coming from with it. As far as shaping the future, so this is kind of obviously all this research and experience that people have had with the app, and the company's been able to draw from the app has kind of pointed out some really exciting new stuff, some new ways that things could go, and I am allowed to talk about none of it. Or maybe not. I did ask, as I say, what was safe for me to talk about, and I'm just notoriously terrible at it, so it's better if I say nothing. But I would say, if you are interested in anything like that, go to the About Us page on the Health and Her website, and basically watch this space if you have hormones, which is a broad statement, but you get the idea. So hopefully that covers everything without me going off on one instead of NDAs or whatever.
No, that's fantastic, Hannah. You're leaving us on a cliff edge there, but it's just a showcase, isn't it, of the fantastic work that's going on at Health and Her, and the role that you have to play as well in the development of the app, making it accessible, and how that's then fed into being recognised officially by a scientific study to say the positive impact that it's having for people that go through the menopause, and the kind of lasting impact. And hopefully, as you're saying, lots of exciting projects in the pipeline, so exciting that they can't be disclosed, which is always a good sign. So yeah, no, really appreciate your insights in that one. Okay, great. And just moving on, just wanted to ask what you see as potentially the biggest opportunities and challenges for women in tech over the next decade.
So, I mean, I think that the shift towards remote work, flexible working, has been a huge opportunity for, I don't have kids, so that's not been an impact on me, but I know that a lot of more of the women I'm working with have children, have younger children, and they're able to still work in tech because they have that flexibility and ability to work from home. That to me seems like it would be pretty huge. I think the opportunity to work, the progress of technology, as I kind of touched on before, gives the opportunity to work on things that are more women-centric that may not otherwise get the support. So I think that's great, and I think there's a lot more. I think companies, investors, and stuff like that. Recent global economic crisis aside, has been a lot more now open to understanding about the diversity and the possibilities of having more women who are in charge of these things and push it and running the show. So I think that's been really good. To be honest, I think of it in the sense that I would never, at the beginning of my career, like 16-year-old, okay, I wasn't beginning my career at 16, you know what I mean, right at the beginning, my 16 years old, I would never have thought that I might be in a position where I would be working as a tech lead in a company that is run by women, that is staffed almost entirely by women, and is for women. I mean, that's a jump, and it's only happened in like 25 years, it's up to 30, not sure. Some many years, which we will not dwell on. But the point is, that's a relatively short period of time, and that's really good. Challenges, I kind of think there is still the gender divide. I think during the layoffs, it was just proportionately hitting women, which says a lot. And I know that there's going to be kind of pushback saying, oh no, but there's this, that. No, the stats pretty much show that it did. So that's something that I think it would be great if can be addressed moving forward. Otherwise, I kind of, what I'm hoping is that it stops mattering who's behind the keyboard in term, it doesn't matter who's pushing the code. The challenges are going to be the same for everybody. It's the emergence of new technologies, AI, all of the stuff surrounding that, all of the layoffs because people are using AI, Elon Musk, robot overlords. Basically none of this really is affecting women only anymore, I think is the point.
Yeah, sure. And yeah, fantastic, as you say, to see the journey and the progression that's happened in those 20, 25 years since you started out and now to be where you are in, yeah, fantastic, very much female-led team and product as well is really unique and really inspirational to hear about. I suppose moving on nicely then to next question. Is there anyone that comes to mind as someone that has been perhaps influential in your career so far?
There has on a kind of I can't really point to any sort of like figure who has been the well-known figure that has been influential to me, because I managed to completely miss any of the 90s STEM pushes for women and stuff like that. I think my journey was largely shaped by women though, so that my hobby starting stuff out, it was other women who were also doing it who kind of showed me and guided me on how I could improve and how I could get things better. I lost a dear friend many moons ago now, and she had supported something that I then wanted to support. So that drove me to create a platform that allowed for fundraising in her memory, which got huge. We raised, I think, like over $80,000 in the end.
Wow.
So then there was kind of like when I moved on to other companies and kind of finally entered the whole office-based working with teams rather than freelance thing, I was working in companies that were like HCI, which is a very small but dedicated health focused company, which is trying to relieve some of the pressures on the NHS and doing it amazingly well. So just seeing this group of people having this really collaborative effort, small but mighty, they are a heck of a company. Then moving on to Olio, which is again women-led, tackling food waste and various other things as well. And now, health and health. So I find the people I work with inspiring, I guess, is kind of like the slightly cheesy way of putting that. Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. And I suppose, I mean, you kind of answered it already in a way, but is there anyone in particular, maybe at the moment, that inspires you and doesn't have to necessarily be work related?
My cats have recently started eating really expensive food, so I find that very motivational. But yeah, actually, I was thinking about this. I do have a kind of a story of someone who is in my life and inspires me, and it's my mother-in-law. And this isn't a mother-in-law joke. This is my mother-in-law, who is she was a coder developer. Talk about men marry their mothers, but she was back in the 70s and 80s and 90s. So she's quite an old one. So she was working on a program that had a bug report in it. And the bug report was someone saying, when I do this, this, and this, I get a bug. And she's just like, no, the only way you can get that bug is if you do this, this, and this, which you've been told never, ever to do. Don't do that. And they said, no, we never, ever, ever do that. So she said, okay. She sent, compiled the program, sent it back to them, got a call the next week, new bug report. Well, the original bug we were having is gone, but now we're getting a pop-up saying, you said you never ever do this. Which I don't know.
Oh
I find that
goodness.
inspiring in the sense that
Yeah.
I love that the way that she dealt with it. I love the fact that she kept it funny. I think, development is fun if you let it be. The way you deal with people can be fun if you let it be. And I find her quite inspirational. But
Yeah, definitely. That's a great story. How sneaky of them to yeah, to try and get away with it like that. But no, that's fantastic. Oh, Hannah, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on our podcast today, and really appreciate you taking the time obviously out of your day to answer our questions. It's yeah, been great to hear about your story and the amazing work that you're doing at the moment at Health and Her too.
thank you. It's been very nice to be on. And yeah, thanks for having me.